I was talking with someone recently who is a nervous flyer. She was telling me that she has an upcoming trip later this month to Florida, which should be nothing but delightful this time of year, but she is in a little bit of a quandary. Is she going to take a long, endless, boring drive down there? Or is she going to buy a ticket for a 2.5-hour plane ride that to her will feel like a root canal with no Novocaine? A lot of people feel that way about flying. And I'm just blessed that I'm not one of them. I actually love it. I love flying. Sometimes for me, flying is my favorite part of the trip. And I think it all comes down to takeoff. I just can't believe we get to have that experience. Faster, 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 and then whoosh, up in the air. It's unbelievable. How can that much steel get up into the air? And then the thing that I love about flying the very best is if you take off on a really cloudy, rainy, stormy day. I know some of you would say, that's the day I like flying the least, but I like it the most because you know how it goes. You take off and then you're in the dark, thick clouds. You can't see anything outside the windows because the cloud vapor is right there. And then you go up and you go up and then suddenly, effortlessly, you go above the clouds. And now there's endless sunshine. And you realize, oh my goodness, above whatever is going on at the surface, up above, everything is really and truly okay. Have you ever had that experience without being on a plane? Some people have that experience spiritually too. They've been depressed for a while, or they've felt lost. They've been trying to make a big decision and they feel confused about which route they should take. They're dealing with something that makes them anxious, and it's like being stuck in a fog. Sometimes it feels to them like they're going in circles. And then all of a sudden, you break through. Maybe you've been praying for some guidance, and all of a sudden, the thought occurs to you, what if I do this? Or maybe it's just as simple as that. And all of a sudden, all of that confusion lifts. And when those moments happen, it's just like flying. Nothing has really changed except my altitude. The Magi were flying at a high altitude. They were looking at the stars for their guidance. They were in the same location as Herod, but Herod was looking at the ground. Herod was in a fog. What should I do? What happens next? He's keeping secrets, trying to figure out what to do. The Magi weren't looking down. They were looking up. And the altitude that they were at made all the difference. This is similar to what people who are in recovery refer to as surrendering to your higher power. Higher power. The power of God that's at a higher altitude than we're at. So when you trust God with your path, with whatever comes next, you're saying, God, I know that you see more than I do. I know you're above this confusion. What is dark and cloudy to me is not to you. And so I know that if you lead me in a direction, even if in my foggy state, I don't know why I'm going there, I know that I can trust that if that's where you would have me go, everything will be okay. The thing people in recovery will tell you, though, is that does come at a cost. Because if you're going to surrender, that means you have to do what God says. You have to go where you're led. And it can happen anytime. And it happens every day. On Wednesday, I was at the post office running some errands, And I was the next in line to be called to the window. And I heard the woman in front of me having an awkward conversation with the clerk because she mistakenly thought that those padded mailers that they have over on the shelves were complimentary. Kind of like a mask when you go into a restaurant. She didn't realize that that was going to be added on to the cost of the postage. So when she got up there, the cost was higher than she expected, and they realized that she did not have enough money. And I heard this, and a star appeared in the sky. And I heard the prompting, pay her bill. It was $6.38 short. Just pay her bill. And then all the voices start coming, all the fogs. But what's she gonna say? Is that awkward? I'm wearing a collar. What is this? Is this gonna go okay? What if people misunderstand? All of those little thoughts. And then, in the middle of that, I heard the woman say to the clerk, well, I don't have enough, so I'm just gonna buy the envelope now, and then I'll come back with more money later, I guess. And I realized, now is the time. And I paid her bill. Because once you've seen the star, you can't pretend you didn't see it. Once you receive the guidance, if you have surrendered, then you have to follow it. And the goal in the spiritual life is that more and more we start living at a higher altitude. We may start off on the ground, but if we're always on the ground, we're always going to be dependent upon the weather. And we're called to try to find a way to overcome all of that fog and all of that gloom. It's kind of like those big apartment skyscrapers in Manhattan. There could be hundreds of apartments there. And all the people who live there have the same address. But they don't all have the same view. The people on the first floor look at a dumpster and at the employee entrance of a Chinese restaurant. And the people at the top are looking at all of Manhattan. They all have the same address. But where you live, at what height you are dwelling, makes all the difference in how you see the view. And just like in an apartment building, the higher you want to go, the more it's going to cost you. There's a cost to moving up in the apartment building, to living at a higher altitude, to having a more expansive perspective. There's a cost. And the question might be, for us today, what is the cost for you, personally, to move up in the apartment building you're living in, spiritually? What would the cost be? What would the rent be? Is it that you're going to have to start the day with prayer every day if you want to have that altitude? If you want that view, are you going to have to start spending time every morning praying before you get on with the day? Might you need to join some kind of service organization, or might you need to change something about the way you spend your free time, or how you consume social media, or what you comment on online? Might you need to change your diet or your habits? What would it look like for you to pay the rent that would help you to move up higher in the building? The thing is, unlike in an apartment building, there's no elevator. A lot of us have spent a lot of time trying to find the elevator to get up there. Can I just press a button? It doesn't work like that. You have to climb the stairs. You have to go one level at a time. But for anyone who's ever gone up higher, if you're wondering, is it worth it to make all this effort just to go a little higher? All we can say is, the view from there, it's heavenly.